Boker Tov. We're going to talk about Ziklag?
Ziklag.
Yeah.
1 Samuel chapter 30. Here there's a version of Scripture called the Scripture of Truth. I'm just going to read the chapter and then make a comment about the names of the cities at the very end. 31 verses here. Just an interesting story that's not usually told, that just so people would get a little taste of Scripture here in the morning. And it came to pass, here, just real quick, they spell the word David, D-A-V-I-Y-D, David. Typically you spell the letter David with three letters, Dalet Vav Dalet, or sometimes Dalet Vav Yod Dalet. So here these guys have a lot of Hebrew words kind of transliterated out. But, you know, this is a publisher's attempt to clarify things, but whoa, you read that and it's like, gosh, is that clarification or does it make it more confusing? Just say that these days people are putting an effort towards appreciating the Hebrew, but then you bump into things, like here it says, surely as Yahweh lives, Y-A-H-W-E-H, capital Y, lowercase A-H-W-E-H. Again, there's four letters, Yod He Vav He. I write capital letters Y-H-U-H, standing for Yod He Wah He. So just to say, the more you investigate, the more confusing it might get, but that's the nature of the study. And it came to pass when Daud, or David, and his men came to Ziklag on the third day. Well, we got to back up. What happened here? Go back to 1 Samuel 28 and 30. Saul had been chasing David for quite some time. David had the opportunity to kill Saul, King Saul, but he didn't. And so Saul blessed David and let him go. And David says, Yahweh will render to every man his righteousness and his faithfulness. For Yahweh delivered you into my hand today, but I would not stretch forth my hand against Yahuwah's anointed. This is David speaking to Saul, letting him know, I could have killed you, but I didn't. Why? David wasn't afraid of Saul. David knew that Yahuwah would repay. There's that gimel, that reciprocation, that mirror, responding. Whatever we do is going to come back. So David did not put his hand to kill Saul, the king, even though he had the opportunity. Because Yahweh will render, it's kind of an aspect of remembering, to every man his righteousness and his faithfulness. I would not stretch my hand forth against Yahweh's anointed. And behold, as your life was much set by this day in my eyes. See, this translation, not exactly King James, but it's not typical American English syntax as we have these days. So I haven't read this version before. I kind of stumbled across it. So let my life be much set by in the eyes of Yahuwah, and let him deliver me out of all tribulation. Then Saul said to David, Blessed be you, my son David. You shall both do great things and shall also still prevail. So David went his way and Saul returned to his place. But David said in his heart, chapter 27, I shall now perish someday by the hand of Saul. There is nothing better for me than I should speedily escape into the land of the Philistines. Then Saul shall stop hunting for me any longer in any part of Israel, and I shall escape out of his hand. So David went and he started living amongst the Philistines, which were the enemies of Israel. And he actually was raiding Philistine cities, but claiming, he was lying, he was claiming that he was actually raiding cities of Judah. And so the Philistine friend that he was staying with thought that David was a loyal traitor to Israel, loyal to the Philistines. And then it says in 27:6, then Achish, that's the guy's name that David lived with, gave him Ziklag that day. That is why Ziklag has belonged to the kings of Yehudah to this day. And at that time, David dwelt in the country of the Philistines for a full year and 4 months. So the Philistines were going to have a big war, a battle with Saul. And David was going to fight on the side of the Philistines. And so the man that he was staying with in his army came up to join forces with the other Philistines, and those guys looked and said, "What? What's David doing here? He's our enemy." No, he's been fighting with me. He's been against the people of Judah. And they said, "Get him out of here. This is a trick. He's going to pretend to be on our side, and in the middle of the battle turn against us, and we'll be getting it from both sides. And isn't this the same guy that they used to sing songs about as he was fighting the Philistines? Saul has killed his thousands, but David has killed his 10,000s. This guy is an incredible, mighty warrior. Get him out for this battlefield." And David said, "Oh, come on, I wouldn't do that." And he said, "Get him out of here." So David went home. So Saul ended up being killed in that battle, I believe is the way that's worked. Anyway, so David here says at tail end of chapter 29, so David and his men rose up early to depart in the morning, right about now probably, or a little bit earlier, to return to the land of the Philistines, and the Philistines went up to Israel. And it came to pass, when David and his men were come to Ziklag, that's David's compound, on the third day, that the Amalekites had invaded the south and Ziklag, and had attacked Ziklag and burned it with fire. Now remember, the Amalekites were this people group nobody knows a whole lot about, but they attacked the tail end of the 3 million people of the Israelites that had left Egypt and were moving into the wilderness for 40 years, and they're headed to the promised land. The Amalekites had come and killed the stragglers and attacked, and that's when Moshe was up on the hill and he had raised up his hands, and Israel would prevail fighting him, and as he got weary and put his hands down, Amalek would prevail. And so, was it Joshua and Aaron had lifted up his hands, sat there and hold up his hands, and then Israel basically prevailed in the battle. And at one point, Saul had gone after a fellow by the name of, I think his name was Agag, who was the great champion, what do you call him, a warlord of the Amalekites. Emanuel Velikovsky did an interesting study on this history and said that when the Egyptian army chased the Israelites across the Red Sea, Sea of Reeds, and the water came back and enveloped them all and killed them all, that left Egypt with a great vacuum of a military force, besides the economic force, and that everything had gotten ruined, and that the Amalekites came in and took over because there was nobody to stop them. And they were rather vicious, and they set up a garrison city just north of Egypt. I think it was in the Gaza Strip area. Anyway, the point is, there's a history that a people group named the Hyksos, Hyksos, ruled Egypt, that they were basically like shepherds, and they had taken over Egypt without a battle, without a fight. They just took over, and they ruled for a few hundred years until the Egyptians rose up and threw them out. And the Egyptians didn't like the Hyksos at all. And it goes down in history, they don't even know who the Hyksos were. And a lot of people suspect that the Hyksos were the Israelites who basically took over when Joseph was promoted from being in the dungeon as a criminal to being vizier, which is essentially the prime minister of Egypt. And then Joseph's the generation after him, his sons, his brothers came in, and until there was the revolution where the Egyptians say, "Hey, why are these foreigners ruling over us?" And then they put the Israelites into slavery. And then the Israelites cried out. Then Moshe was born. 80 years later was the Exodus. Just to give you a staging of history. But Immanuel Velikovsky, his research says the Hyksos, those people that nobody appreciated, was not the Israelites. It was actually the Amalekites. In the movie One Night with the King concerning Queen Esther, Haman, I'm not sure, do you know, does the scripture tell us that Haman was an Amalekite in the land of Persia under Ahasuerus or Xerxes?
I can't remember.
Well, they in the movie One Night with the King, Haman was a descendant of Amalek, and the symbol that he used, everybody has a logo, a symbol, you know, the Nike swoosh or whatever it might be. His was a variation of the Nazi swastika. And so, you know, people play with thematic graphics. Whether or not that was actual, that the same heart of the Nazis with their swastika to Holocaust the Jews in Eastern Europe during the 1940s was the same as Haman in the book of Esther, which is the same as these Amalekites that David is contending with in chapter 30 of 1 Samuel, which is the same ones that Saul whooped their great warlord a few years earlier. Just trying to give you a sense of an overview of world history here. So the Amalekites, they did have a warlord king, but they were just really bad guys. Anyway, they had been on you might say, a pillaging campaign similar to the Vikings, maybe similar to the Huns. Lots of people groups did this kind of a thing where they just said, hey, it's springtime. Let's jump on our boats and take off and just go pillage and kill and steal and burn. Let's just go have some fun. That's what they were doing. The Comanches did the same kind of thing. They weren't farmers. They weren't builders. They'd just get the itch and they'd jump on their horses and ride up to 300 miles just to go steal and kill and burn and pillage some settlement and ride back with some stuff. That's their lifestyle. That's what the Amalekites did. So they had attacked Ziklag and burned it with fire. Verse 2 of chapter 30, we'll get through this. And had taken the women captives and all that were there. They killed not any, either great or small, but carried them away and went on their way. They took everybody to sell as slaves or to use as slaves. It was an economic adventure. So David and all his men came to the city, and behold, it was burned with fire, and their wives and their sons and their daughters were taken captives. Then David and the people that were with him lifted up their voice. Got mosquitoes out here this morning. And wept until they had no more power to weep. I mean, here David and his men, 600 guys, had gone out to go to war. They were all geared up. They were all psyched up. They were all... And the Philistines said, get out of here. Go home. We don't want you in our battle. So they turn around and come back home and find that their own city burned to the ground. All their families, all their stuff, their possessions, everything was lost. Good thing they turned around and came back. So here, while I'm reading the story, is like, you know, we how do we decide what to do with our life? How do we decide what's the best thing to do today? David thought the best thing was to go to war against Saul and the armies of Yehuda. But it was rerouted. His plans were derailed. And they said, go, get out of here. Go home. I don't want to go home. Go home. Goes back home and only, whoa. Somebody had come in. It was a good thing they went back at that moment. Verse 5, and David's 2 wives were taken captives. Whew, boy, the way they spell this isn't easy to read. Ahinoam, the Yitzreelitis. See, if we read the scriptures or another version, it would have been a lot easier to read. and Abigail, the wife of Nabal the Carmelite. We talked about her and him, Nabal, the guy who's a fool.
I got you another option right down there.
All right. 1 Samuel 30. I'm going to be struggling through that. Verse 5. 1 Samuel 30. And David's two wives, Ahinoam the Yisraelitess and Abigail the widow of Nabal the Carmelite, had been taken captive. And David was greatly distressed, for the people spoke of stoning him. His own men were going to mutiny and kill him, because the being of all the people was grieved, each for his sons and his daughters. But David strengthened himself in Yahweh his Elohim. Right there. David looked around and he says, look it. The guy that I was working for doesn't want me. All his friends think that I'm a traitor, which maybe he would have, who knows. His own men have mutinied and want to kill him. His wives are gone, his family's gone, everything he has, and David is left alone. Now what do I do? But he strengthened himself in Yahweh, his Elohim. We're not alone. We've got Yahweh. And David said to Abiathar the priest, son of Ahimelech, please bring me the shoulder garment here to me. The shoulder garment was the priest's ephod. Basically, it hung off the shoulders. It was basically the 12 stones of the 12 tribes. So Abiathar brought the shoulder garment to David. And David inquired of Yahuwah, saying, do I pursue this band? Do I overtake them? Now think about what's going on here. David could have gone into his prayer closet all by himself and just meditated and pondered and prayed and said, dear Lord, do I pursue this army that has just raided my city? If I'm going to go be a victim, I don't want to do that, but I don't know if the people are alive or dead that they captured. I mean, what do you want me to do? I've said before, this almost sounds like he's consulting the Ouija board. I mean, that's what the Ouija board is. You know, consult some spirit in the board, which is something we're not supposed to do. That's witchcraft. That's sorcery. Leave that alone. But David, it almost feels like he's doing the same thing. David's not trusting his own thoughts in his own head or the ruach in his heart, so he calls for the priest and says, bring the breastplate and ask of Yahweh, and let's read the stones are supposed to light up to give some kind of an answer. And it's like, whew, I don't know what to do with that. I can't condone that. David did it, but we're told not to do that. Nevertheless, David did inquire of Yahweh and asked the priest, sought the counsel of his friends, right or wrong. And the priest said, pursue, for you shall certainly overtake them and certainly rescue. Didn't say that none of David's men would get killed or wounded in the battle, but he said, go chase them down, you'll be successful. So David took that as Yahuwah's green light, as it were, to just go for it with all his might. Verse 9, so David went, he and the 600 men who were with him, and came to the Wadi Besor, where a halt was made by those who were left behind. They came to a river crossing, and 200 of the men were weary. For whatever reason, they just couldn't continue in the assault to chasing down this other band of raiders, marauders. So he left the 200, and David crossed the river, the Wadi, and went on. Verse 10, while David pursued, he and 400 men, for 200 had halted, who were too faint to pass over the Wadi Besor, and they found a man in the field, an Egyptian, a Mitzrite, and they took him to David, and they gave him bread, and he ate, and they let him drink water, and he gave him a piece of a cake of figs and 2 clusters of raisins, building up his energy from inside. The guy was famished and almost dead, but they revived him. And when he had eaten, his strength came back to him, for he had not eaten bread nor drunk water for 3 days and 3 nights. And David said to him, to whom do you belong, and where are you from? And he said, I'm a young man from Mitzrayim, Egypt, servant of an Amalekite. Well, he was a slave. The Amalekites had taken him from Egypt. See, this says servant. This is the scriptures, and the word is Obed, but is that a servant? Is that a slave? It's like, you got to just read it in Hebrew and wrap your mind around the story. It's like watching a movie. Whoever produces the movie or directs the movie spins it whatever way they want. And my master left me behind, for I had been sick 3 days. We attacked the south of the Kerethites, and against that which belongs to Yehuda, and upon the south of Caleb. Caleb, that's the word dog, all heart. And we burned Ziklag with fire. And David said to him, could you bring me down to this marauding band? And he said, swear to me by Elohim. Swear to me by Elohim. Now, did this man believe in Yahweh? Not necessarily, but he believed in some sort of deity, some sort of God, some sort of Elohim. And he says to David, look, I'll swear by God that you neither kill me nor surrender me to the hands of my master. Then I bring you down to this marauding band. So he's going to betray the Amalekites. Why? Not because they were his friends. The Amalekites took him as a slave. He doesn't want to go back there. Verse 60, and he brought them back down and saw that they were spread out all over the land, eating and drinking and dancing. It's kind of like David came up to the ridge and thousands of these guys. And they were having a big fiesta. They had successfully waged their campaign of marauding, of like Vikings on the hunt, and had hit quite a few cities. Drinking and dancing and eating because of all the great spoil that they had taken from the land of the Philistines and the land of Yehuda. And David smote them from twilight until the evening of the next day. 24 hours, pretty much. And none of them escaped except 400 young men who rode on camels and fled. So David and his 400 men killed what could have been maybe 100,000 raiders. Maybe not that many, maybe 20,000, but they filled the valley with their partying. And David rescued all the Amalekites had taken. And David also rescued his 2 wives. And there was none missing to them, whether small or great. They hadn't killed a single one. Whether sons or daughters or spoil, or whatever they had taken from them, David recovered everything. Besides, David captured all the flocks and herds that they had driven before those livestock, and they had said, this is David's spoil. And David came to the 200 men who were too faint to follow David, who had also been left at the Wadi Besor, and they went out to meet David and to meet the people who were with him when David came near to the people, and he greeted them. And now these are David's warriors, those who hung out with him, his friends, his companions, his associates. And here he says they're called evil and worthless men. Of those who went with David answered and said, because these others didn't go with us, we do not give them any of the spoil that we have rescued, except every man's wife and his children, and let them take them and go. So they said, you pussies, you guys wouldn't come to the battle. Take your wives and children, get out of here. We don't even want to be with you guys anymore. But David said, my brothers, do not do so with what Yahweh has given us. Yahweh has protected us and given into our hand the band that came against us. And who would listen to you in this matter? For as his portion is who goes down to the battle, so is his portion who remains with the baggage. They share alike. In that one event, it came to be from that day forward, he appointed it for a law and a right ruling for Israel to this day. It became the custom in Israel that if you stayed behind, guarding the camp, looking over the families, looking over the baggage, and others went to war, that whatever spoils were taken were shared between the two. And David came to Ziklag. He sent some of the spoil. Now here's where we're going to get into the study a little bit. Verse 26. When David came to Ziklag, why is it called Ziklag? What does that word mean? We're going to look at that, and I'll tell you what I think, how to translate these words. Came to Ziklag. He sent some of the spoil to the elders of Yehuda. There's another word. To his friends, saying, here's a present for you from the spoil of the enemies of Yahweh. To those in Bethel, that's the third word. To those in Ramoth of the south, and to those in Yatir, and to those in Aror, and to those in Siphmoth, and to those in Eshtemoa, to those in Rakal, those in the cities of the Yerahmeelites, and to those in the cities of the Canaanites, and to those in Hormah, and those in Korashan, and those in Athak, and to those in Hebron, and to all the places where David had gone up and down, he and his men. Okay, so we're going to look at the names of those cities. You read this story, and it's like, other than it's just a list of names. But the question is, could we read a message in this list of names? I don't know. Is there a message? Is there not a message? I'll show you what the words are and what they mean, and you can decide for yourself. Ziklag. Zadi Kuf Lamed Gimel. Just for what it's worth, I find it easier, for whatever reason, to start at the end of the word and read into the word backwards in doing this Sephering, this reverse engineering of the spelling of the word. So Lamed Gimel, lag, like drinking a beer, is a lager. A lag is a liquid measure. Lag. Kuf Lamed Gimel means to pour out, like pouring out a certain measure. It also means a rasping or grating sound. Zadi Kuf Lamed means light. Zadi Kuf didn't make it clear. Zadi Kuf it means light, swift, or easy. So what do you do with that? Liquid measure, pour out, rasp or grating sound, light, swift, and easy. Pouring out a nice beer on a hot day goes down easy. In fact, even the word Coors, we talked about this before, Kufav Resh means cold, chilled, and of enhanced value. I'm not promoting drinking alcohol, just so you know. Not that there's necessarily anything wrong with that, especially at Sukkot, but I'm not promoting it, just so you know. In the etymological dictionary, it says, the etymological dictionary is a study of associated languages with where these words are similar. It says in Latin, the word caliga, Caliga, is a heavy military shoe. So here's Ziklag. You got this heavy military shoe pouring out a liquid measure and a grating, rasping sound. Light, swift, easy. Kind of is the picture to me like a swarm of hornets coming out of a hornet's nest. Like this is David's compound, and out comes this swarm of heavy military, light, fast, easy, this like a liquid measure just pouring out. That's a picture of David and his troops. This is where they're holed up like hornets, and man, when they come out to fight, they're wham! Ziklag. But you see, you have to process this. Somebody else might have a better idea. Then he mentions Yehuda. Oh, that's the land of Judah to the south. Yeah, but what is Judah? Yod, He, Vav, Dalet, He. Yod is the prefix he will, He is the suffix meaning expressed, so the word is hod. That's like the word hodu, which means give praise, give thanks, confession of sin, echoing, reverb, resounding. Give praise, thanks, confession. Next word, Bet El. Bet Yod Tav means house or family or to be domestic. Hyphened to Aleph Lamed. El is the short form translated God. El as in Elah or Elohim. Eloheinu, our El, our power, our strength. The house of El, translated house of God, could mean to be domesticated of Elohim or unto Elohim, you might say. Next one, Ramoth Negev. Well, Ramot, Resh Mem Vav Tav, means lifted up, high, or exalted, where you get the word Rome or Romulan or Rommelled. And then Negev is the area to the south in Israel. It's the desert. It's the dry area. So this might mean the high desert. There's places in California and Oregon which is called the high desert as compared to Death Valley being a low desert. It might just refer to elevation. Southern highlands, arid place. But the word resh mem means to raise up. In Negev, nun could be a prefix, so gimel bet means pit, hill, vault, or locust. But this could mean like a raised eyebrow, something curved, like raise your eyebrow. Like, why would you raise your eyebrow if you see something? If you're going to scrutinize something, you lower and you crunch down. This is just typical human facial expressions. If you scrutinize, you crunch down your eyebrows and you focus your eyeballs in. And when something astounds you, so something astounding is going on. Okay, next word, Yod Tav Resh. Well, Tav Resh is the word for search and explore. Yod Tav Resh, Yod being the prefix, means he will search. Well, that's like a pioneer. He will search. He will go looking. But if you look at the word Yod Tav Resh, Yitar, the word Yitro was the name of Moshe's father-in-law, same word. It means remainder, but it also is superfluous or excessive profit, surplus abundance and riches. It's also the word hypotenuse. How do you get hypotenuse from remainder or excessive riches? On a hypotenuse, you got a right angle, and it's the side of a triangle opposite the right angle. What's that hypotenuse got to do with anything? Searching for a remainder, a remnant? Something other than this and that. It's something else. Because if you're talking about a right triangle, a triangle with a right angle, these are the two sides that determine that. And so this is the third, the other one. It's kind of like, for people who thinking about the Trinity, you've got the Father, you've got the Son. Well, yeah, then the Spirit's that other one that somehow is connecting the two and kind of nebulous and kind of otherwise and playing with concepts. Excessive profit. Well, when David went to recover his loot from the Amalekites, they had been raiding for quite a while, and man, they had all kinds of stuff. It doesn't tell us how many cities that they had hit, but a lot. And so David not only recovered his wife and everyone's children and their personal possessions, but everything else from all those other cities that had been vanquished, conquered. What did he do with all the people that had been taken as slaves? Did he let them go? Did he sell them as slaves? Doesn't tell us, but that's Yatar. Then there's this word ayin resh, ayin resh. That's what it means. It's kind of the sound you make when you're choking and gargling. But you look in the dictionary and it's also shouts of protest, objection. Like in a courtroom, some guy argues the case, objection, Your Honor, that guy is trying to weasel. He's twisting the facts. Somebody saying, nah, ayin resh, ayin resh. But ayin resh means to watch and be vigilant. And it's the word is laurel, like the wreath that the Greeks and Romans, champion athletes, would wear that. But it also means made destitute, isolated, lonely, destruction. So maybe somebody's protesting, saying, hey, you're wrecking everything, stop that. It's aroused and incited. So when everything's going along fine, and somebody comes and starts rocking the boat, hey, quit rocking the boat, you're going to spill everything over. That's the kind of thing. Somebody shouting a protest and incited to say, hey, everybody else, stop doing what you're doing. You're ruining. It's like somebody building a house of cards and somebody else opens the door to let the breeze in. It's like, close the door, you're going to knock down the house of cards. It's kind of like we're in church and singing nice songs, and all of a sudden somebody says, hey, this isn't even the Sabbath. Hey, shut up, you're wrecking everything. Hey, wait a minute, maybe we should regard the Torah. All right, you, out of here. Don't rock the boat. Shin Pei Mem Vav Tav. It's the word mustache. The Vav Tav is plural, so now we're talking about mustaches. Mustaches? Why would they name a city Mustachios? Vav Tav is plural. Well, Pei Mem is where you get the word pum. Put a vav in the middle, and it's pum. That's puma. That's mountain lion. That's cougar. The mouthy one. Because sheen can be read as a prefix, meaning that which belongs to. It's like, you see a mountain lion, and it's like it's all about the mouth. Could say this is a city about being mouthy. Here's an interesting word. Aleph, Shin, Tav, Mem, Ayin. Doesn't even exist in the dictionary. Ashatma. Ashatama. Okay, you got to analyze it. It's not there. Aleph can be read as a prefix letter, meaning I will. Aleph, Shin, fire. Aleph, Shin, Tav, a shot. That's wife. For example, in Proverbs 31, it talks about Ashat Chayil, a valiant wife. Like Karen, my wife. It says a valiant or a noble, of virulent wife. Who can find? It's a Chayil is a military term. Shin, Tav, Mem. Okay, so we took the first letter, the first two letters, the first three letters. Then we're going to shift. Now we're looking at Shin, Tav. That's the word for sit or shet, where it's the foundation, the basis, that which you put everything else, you build upon that. It's also the word to get drunk, intoxicated. To get, when somebody who's really drunk is a Shin, Tav face. Isn't that what somebody commented on in the video remarks? Hey, now I know that why when people get drunks they're called Shin Tav face.
Yeah.
Anyway, Shin Tav Mem means to broach or unseal a hole, like opening a vault or putting a key in a latch and opening up something which has been locked up. Well, Daniel was told to hide the word and seal the book. And this is kind of like popping the cork, breaking open the seal and having access to something which had been otherwise locked up. Tav Mem. Now we're looking at shifting over to the third letter. Tav Mem, Tom is the word for perfect. Be ye perfect, even as your Father in heaven is perfect. That's Tav Mem. Artless, innocent, naive. Tav Mem Ayin. Was no word for that, but Tav could be a prefix letter. And then Mem Ayin. Well, Mem Ayin isn't exactly a word, but Mem Ayin Hay is a small grain. Like you've heard of the word mote. There's a New Testament verse. Don't take the splinter out of the other guy's eye until you take the beam out of your eye. The little mote, the splinter, and the other little speck. It's like, oh gosh, you take that. That's a little mote, some little thing. Some little thing. Okay, what do we do with this? I will, the word for fire, wife, upon which all else is built, open a vault or unseal a hole to broach some subject, perfect in small grain. Did you figure out what that might mean? Could you put it all together?
No, I didn't.
Well, Paul Berry, hey Paul, he said, hey, I have a new love interest, and do you have any words of wisdom? Just remember this.
Oh, gee.
I will fire, wife, open up a vault, perfection, small grain. A wife will find every little fault you've got. That's what I think this means. So there's words of wisdom. Are you ready for that? If you want to keep life simple, don't rock the boat, don't get a wife. You want a wife. No matter how cute and pleasant and simple and contained and comforting she might be, she'll find every fault you got and drive you crazy. In fact, there's a story about that in the New Testament, isn't there? About Joseph and Mary. They had a wonderful relationship. Weren't you just talking
go
about
for it,
this
Eric.
morning?
Yeah, we were.
Joseph and Mary. Why, that's the holy couple. There could have been no fault with that. They had a wonderful relationship. We don't know much about it. In fact, the only thing we know is that at the time that she was pregnant and about ready to give birth, all the world was taxed, and why They had to load up their gear up there in Nazareth and Galilee and go all the way down to Jerusalem, and she was heavy with child, and so Joseph had to walk, and Mary rode his ass the whole way.
He went there.
Put her on his donkey, and they just...
And that's what you meant. Yeah.
No trouble in that relationship, probably, I guess.
In a personal setting, that got guffaws of laughter. We'll see how it does on the internet.
Resh Kaf Lamed. Going from place to place, it means peddling or gossiping or, gosh, I'm kind of doing this. I'm going from place to place. Looks like I'll be in Montana in a couple weeks for another Shavuot. Third one. Anyway, next one. Ba'ari.
While you're on that topic, you should
Yes.
clarify for other people, because somebody asks, what calendar is Eric on?
What calendar am I on? Every one I
All
can
of them.
Bet Ayin Resh Yod, and then the word Hey Yod Resh, Het Mem Aleph Lamed Yod. Well, Bet Ayin Resh Yod, Ari Ayin Resh Yod is translated the word city. So, and Bet means in the city or among the cities. Bet Ayin Resh, though, means to set on fire, destroy, remove, burn, consume, and somebody who has not much intellect going on. It means brutish, foolish, stupid, and ignorant. So does this mean in the city of, or does this mean, with the yod suffix, means, the yod doesn't mean a person who is destroyed, it might mean that, but it can mean the city is. A city set on fire, or a brutish city, some stupid city, a city full of people who are just thugs. Thug. That's one of those onomatopoeia. The word sounds like the type of person that it is. Either way. But here's this word, interesting word. Hey Yod Resh, Het Mem Aleph Lamed Yod. Got to break it down. Yod suffix, that means my. Aleph Lamed, Al, Ali means to me, or this is mine. Or Mem Aleph Lamed Yod means by myself, or this is all alone. This is all by myself. I'm going to do something. Het Mem, or Het Mem Aleph, is the word for warm or hot. Resh Het Mem, Racham, is warm, mercy, compassion, love, or womb. Het Mem Aleph is the word buttery. Buttery. Kind of like warm butter. Resh Het, we talked about this word before. Resh Vav Het is ruach, or wind, or mind, will, disposition. The ruach of Elohim, the spirit of Elohim, the thinking, the attitude, what's in the heart is ruach. And Resh Yod Het is reek, which is the scent, fragrance, wafting. You can just imagine springtime, these different flower scents, and smell something here. They're like smelling somebody's barbecue going. You can smell it from quite a ways away. Lived in West LA, there was a place that made incense, and there was constantly, for about a mile or so, 2 radius, the scent of these various flowers in the air. It was great. So this is Yod Resh Het, Yirach, like the word Jericho, Yericho, is literally the word for moon. Round like a full moon? Jericho must have been a round city like a full moon. Interesting, it talked about the king of Jericho, but the word is Melacha with a hey suffix, so it would be the queen. So Jericho must have been a full moon round city with a queen, like a beehive with a queen bee. And its influence went out all around the land, so when they crossed the Jordan River, Jericho was the first city was taken out under Joshua there. Just interesting stories with looking at the spelling of words. Hey is the prefix. Hey Yod Resh, Ha'ir. Yod Resh, in Spanish, the word to go, G-O, like lecha, like we talked about yesterday, is spelled I-R, ear. It's to to put into an action. So here it says, in the city of Heyod Resh Chet Mem Aleph Lamed Yod, which is the projection of the moon, or like the radiance of the moon, like warm butter to me. This is almost poetry. Like the shining moon, this full moon, like warm butter to me. That's a pretty comfortable place to go. And this is the name of one of the cities. It's like, wow, we should go vacation there. What was that place like? You must have had some great restaurants and some nice scenery, like an inn that you could stay at and just be in a garden setting and wonderful scents. I mean, it's just, gosh, how much more poetic can you make a place? Like the radiance of the full moon, warm butter to me. Then the name of the next city, Ba'ari, same thing. Hey, Kuf Yod Nun Yod. Well, Kuf Yod Nun, isn't that the word Cain, as in Cain and Abel, which means rise up and strike? It's the word for spear. It's the word to fit something together like a fabricator or an artisan. And it means one who has enormous testicles. Well, that's pretty ballsy of him. And it's the word for kines, Kuf Yod Nun Samek, where we get the word kinesiology, or athletics, physicality, put something into motion, kinesthetic. And so it's like, gosh, these people were maybe what, a bunch of fighters? A bunch of guys that like to argue. I've got a couple friends, and when they were in their young days, their fun would be to find some bar, walk in the door, and the first guy that stood up, wham, knocked him down. Anybody else? And if it got into a brawl, it's like, woohoo! Now that's having a Friday night, boy. It doesn't matter who wins or loses. Let's go fight. That's the word. Kini, Kuf Yod Nun Yod. So one is like a full moon, full radiance of the moon, warm butter. And the next one is, let's just go have a fight. Name of the city. Next word, Chet Resh Mem Hey. It means to spread a net. Charama. Well, haram is where you get the word for harem. What's in a harem? Who's in a harem? A bunch of girls that nobody else better touch, man. They belong to the king. Spread a net, destruction, banned, devoted, confiscated, fishing net, harem. So when the friend of mine was driving from the United States to Canada and was taking a little case of wine, and they said, hey, you're not allowed to have, I think they're allowed to have 3, and he had 6 or something in a case. And they said, we're going to take the whole case. Why not just take the 3? No, we're going to take the whole thing. We could take it. We're going to have it. Or they dump it out or whatever they're going to do. You can't have it. It's ours. When you make a ban, a prohibition on something, that's this word. So the girls in a harem, whether you see them at the bar or not, you better not mess with them. It's the same word for kadoshi is, well, if something is kadosh, that's sacred. Things that belong to Yahoo are sacred, but it's also the name of a temple prostitute. It's like the temple prostitute you can only engage in if you go to worship at that temple. It's the same exact word in Hebrew, kadoshi. Similar to this word harama. It means harem, but it also means something banned or devoted for the exclusive use. It's both sides. You might say good or bad. The next word, kor ashen, kaf vav resh, a dry measure, round, like the core. To do core drilling in concrete, there's some specialty companies. They can maybe just drill a little hole, but they have some bigger bits that they can drill a big hole with special machinery and water. I mean, it's a dry measure, but sometimes you use water for drilling a core hole. But which radius is it? Is it this or this or this? It's basically like a target pattern, but the core is the center. The apple core is the center of the apple. So here, it's the picture of enveloping, kind of like a target. And then there's word ashen, ayin sheen nun. Well, ayin sheen hey means to do, to make, to produce, to cause something to happen. So ayin sheen nun is the doing of the ayin sheen hey. But it's the word smoking, or anything that is smoking. A fire pit, anger, somebody getting agitated, fuming, fumigated. Or, you know that one of those little containers with a funnel on it, and you squeeze it, it's got a bellows, and it produces smoke so that you can go out and work on a beehive because it kind of intoxicates the bees. It's kind of that picture. So here's this is this word of this city a bee smoker pot, this thing that puts out smoke, or is it the target? Fire pit, smoke ring. Next word, ayin tov mem. Well, ayin tov kaf, excuse me. Ayin tov is time, and kaf is a suffix for you, so it means your time or your season. This is your opportunity. Chet bet resh vav nun, chaveron. Well, chaver means friend, companion, associate, one of an organization, to join the colors, be on a team, be in a military, be part of a band, a
or it's the
composition.
name of a cat at Knowles Hill Inn.
The name of the cat is chaver, chaveron. An alliance of equals. Joseph's coat of many colors. Those were chaveron. Then you have, that's the last name of the city. Then it says, Velachal ha-makomot asher ha-talacha Shem Daud hu ve'anashyo. And to all the places that walked there, David, he, and his men. Real quick, how many minutes do we got?
Oh, you got a few.
Okay, we're going to go back and just...
Try to wrap it up in 5.
Huh?
Try to wrap it up in...
Within 5 minutes. Now we're going to go back and read these through and try to make sense of what this means. This is just the names of the cities. Like military boots swarming out, give praise, thanks, and confession. So I'm going to read this as if we should be giving Hod to Yahweh as if it was a swarm of hornets coming out of a nest. So here we're trapped and quarantined in our country telling us do this, don't do that. And but we should be like, roar! Like military boots storming out of Ziklag like a swarm of hornets. Hodu layawa kitov, ki leolam hasdo. Raise your eye. What? What are these guys saying? The remnant? Surplus? Abundance? What are we looking for? We're looking for the promise of Yahweh's blessing in these last days that he promised for certain to our ancestors that in the interim period of time for the last 3,000 years, everyone on the planet seems to have forgotten about. And we, having found it, are going, woohoo! And yet, there's shouts of protest. Sit down and stop complaining. Sit down, you're rocking the boat. People are leaving the church. People are believing in conspiracy theories and don't want to take the vaccines. Isn't that what we just heard? As if, gee, there's some kind of effect being had. Good thing.
Yeah.
The next word, mustache? No, mouthy! Will you guys just shut up and quit complaining and quit kicking the church around? Sorry, can't do it. This says we're supposed to be mouthy. The wife will find every little fault. Uh-oh, am I talking against my wife? No, Israel's supposed to be the wife of Yahuwah in finding every little fault in what? In him. Find every little fault in the husband, Yahuwah. They ain't no fault. He's got no fault. The fault's in us. As a good wife, find every little fault in us. Ourselves, our country, our people, our church, our nation, and then unseal, open a hole. It's like, whoa, let the hornets out, tell you. Going from place to place gossip. Talk to your friends about these matters. Go from place to place like a bee going from flower to flower. And then, like the radiance of the full moon, like warm butter to me, although other people are going to be like a bunch of warriors with enlarged testicles, stabbing each other and arguing and fighting and just looking for a reason to fight. This isn't about looking for a reason to fight, although this is the reason to fight, and we're not going to shy away from the fight if that's what somebody wants to do. It's like, okay, here we go, Hakini. And yet, some will say, it ain't right. It ain't right. Well, is it banned or is it devotion? Are we doing things that are wrong, or is this devotion to Yahweh, which is if you're in Yahweh's harem, I mean, does they have one wife or more than one wife? Gee, Yahweh was married to both Israel and Yehuda, and then the bride of Christ? Who's that? Gosh, the whole thing gets pretty convoluted. But like a bullseye of a target that's just smoking hot, like a locomotive funnel, This is your opportunity. This is your time. That's what it says. Ein Tov Kaf. Friend, association, this is a matter of rejoining the confederacy of Israel, the 12 tribes unified. And to all, this is the initial thing, Hamakom, Hey, Mem Kuf Mem Vav Tav, plural. It means to localize, but it also, Kuf Mem means enemy or foe, stand up. Somebody standing up. To all who would stand up and walk according to the Shem of the beloved. He, and then the word, and his men. Aleph Nun Shin is Anash. Well, David and his men, remember the word for to join a crew, to man up, to be on the team is Zadivav. Zadiyovdav Nun. Zion is to be under the admiralty of Yahweh, our commanding emperor. To be the men of David is to be the Zion of Yahweh. And that's a picture of the Nun Samik with the admiral surrounded by his fleet. That's the word Ani, Aleph Nun Yod.
Got him. He's stuck there. You got a blood spot now. I've been wanting to come over and slap you in the head, trying to get your attention.
Ah, well. Ziklag.
All right. Well, that covered about an hour.
Well, it
job,
might be
brother.
a couple weeks. I'll be in Montana probably, and then after that, I'm not sure when I'll be back here. But
Soon.
Shalom Aleichem.
Soon.
Havaron.
Hallelujah.